Welcome to Hop's Metal Show Live. Hop and I get the opportunity this afternoon to chat with Gavin Evick of the Gavin Evick Band, and maybe we'll get to hear a little bit about the family legacy that he's living later on. But before we get into that, Gavin, how about you kick us off and tell us a little bit about you, your band, and just some of the cool stuff you've got going on. We'll talk more about your latest song, Redline, that is in the show notes wherever you're accessing this. But right now, just talk about you, your history, and what got you into this.
Yeah, no, of course. So I'm Gavin, and I'm 23 years old. I'm from the Northern Virginia area, and obviously, the connection with my dad and Bret Michaels. He plays guitar for Bret Michaels, and that's kind of been the way I grew up in the music industry, behind the scenes, going on tour, meeting lots of people that, a lot of normal people call legends and heroes. I know them as like my dad's friends and even my friends. And that's just really gatewayed me into the music industry a whole lot. And I grew up kind of like that. And then I really kind of fell in love with the music right around my senior year of high school, which was only a few years ago. I guess now it's like 5. It feels like a little bit longer. I used to be able to make that joke because I'm so young, but now I'm 23. And now that was like 5 years ago. Yeah. And I really fell in love with it then. And then, I expressed interest in actually doing it. And then it was just me and my dad had a relationship about how to build that up and how to train me. And I got a lot of training and vocal lessons from people like Tony Harnell from TNT. You got Robert Mason from Warrant helped me out a little bit. So did Tom Kiefer from Cinderella. I had a lot of people that were really on my side about helping me with my voice and finding it. And that's kind of brought me here today. I've been known to give the long answer. So here I am giving the medium answers about how to do that.
Well, Hop knew more of the other names than I did, Gavin. Before we went live, I was telling you that I work all the time. I'm kind of boring. Hop's more into it, but the one you caught me on was Tom Kiefer, and
Yes.
One of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, no, Tom is awesome. The problem when I was just starting is the reason I really wanted to do this is because, like I said, I fell in love with the music my junior and senior year, and I would play it in my car and my Mustang. That was my first car when I was 16 was a Mustang. So I would just pedal to the floor, drive fast, and blare, the 80s rock and roll. And what would happen is I would sing along, and then like I would find my pitch and I would sing a lot of these high notes from like Skid Row and Warrant and stuff like that. Then I'd have like friends go like, dude, you're a fucking dude. How are you able to hit like notes like this? Right. And so that boosted my ego. And I'm like, wait, it's rare, for a dude to have like ridiculously high range. I didn't really realize that. So that boosted my ego ridiculously. And to the point where a year into my singing journey, where I actually started learning, I got, cocky to the point where I felt invincible with my voice because like there's nothing I couldn't sing. And then I caught COVID, and I had strep throat, and everything was happening all at once. And I'm like, well, fuck this. This ain't going to stop me. The pros, show must go on. So I would still go to my dad's, warehouse facility, and I'd go and sing till 4 or 5 a.m., just screaming my heart off, not taking, not being careful with my voice. And it got to the point where I threw it out really bad. And I couldn't sing for 6 months. I went to doctors. I went to ENTs. And I told my dad, I made a joke to him. And I said, listen, I don't trust these doctors. The only person that I trust is fucking Tom Kiefer. I made a joke about that. Then 10 minutes later, I got a call from Tennessee. And it was Tom Kiefer. And me and him talked for like 2 hours on the phone. And he would give me advice on how to actually take care of my voice, gave me advice on ENTs to go see specialists. I told him, hey, this is where I lived. And he went and he did all the research for me about ENTs to visit in Northern Virginia and their background history, everything. Like he's got a guy that like just did all the research for me. Like I still have like the texts on my phone all about it. And there's been a couple occasions where only a few, and they were a couple of years ago, where he would call me for an extensive period of time and really, tell me how to take care of my voice, because he just said he's got a lot of empathy for people that go through vocal struggles. If you really know Tom Kiefer, like the reason I made that joke is because he's had like 20 vocal surgeries, more than anybody. So yeah, that's kind of that goes hand in hand with a lot of stories I have about my journey. Like, I really, as much as I do earn positions I have, and I guess you could say work for positions I do have access to a lot more tools than most people around me.
Gavin, before I turn to Hop, I'll say I'm writing a book that'll come out in a year and a half. It's going to come out in 2027. Mm-hmm. It's called Leveraging Leadership Growth, the Strength of Great Professional Relationships. And you just define that to a T. The relationships we have, we can have ability, but without good relationships, that ability is going to be somewhat.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You know, you could be like, especially with booking, you know, gigs and stuff. I'm able to book like really good gigs. Like I feel, I don't know what the term is, bad about this, but like I did skip a phase in the growing the band aspect. Like I skipped a lot of the bars and the restaurants or playing gigs like that. I straight up play really awesome, really big gigs like that. Like last week, my last show was in front of almost 2,000 people with Sebastian Bach. And it doesn't matter how good you are. You could be amazing. I have the right phone numbers, and so does my dad. It's not how good you are or what you know. It really is who you know, and I admit that. You know, there's a little bit of what's the term called, nepo baby or nepotism or whatever it is that, you know. But I still have to earn it. You know,
yeah,
I couldn't
you still gotta have the chops.
Yeah, I couldn't have been put into that gig if I didn't have a resume of being trusted by a lot of other people in videos and this and that of me actually putting on a good show. And you gotta, you know, even with every gig that I book, you know, it's not just super easy. They really, you know, dig deep and ask other people like, oh, how did this band do? You know, the biggest thing is like setup. And, you know, most bands, when they have an opening band, they don't give a shit who the opening band is. You just got to be easy. You got to get on that stage and off that stage. That's all they care about. And I have a reputation for being easy to work with and entertaining the crowd. And that's how you get the shows.
Yeah. Yep. Hop, before Gavin and I do the whole show, how about you ask a few questions too?
All right. Well, I mean, I feel you just mentioned you've got an 80s influence. I mean, how would you describe your music?
Well, you know, I'm influenced obviously heavily by the 80s rock sound and the big sing-along choruses and this and that. But the truth is, you know, I really try to modernize it as much as I can. You know, like I don't. It's hard because the biggest thing that I feel like I struggle with is I try my hardest to not make it sound 80s.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to still hear the 80s because, like, no matter who you are, it's hard for you to break from your influences. I don't think that my songs are necessarily like the hair metal sound. I think with any bands you look at, like, for example, those 2000s rock guys, as much as they are, you know, that 2000s sound, all their influences are the 80s guys. You know, like you look at Nickelback, they love all those 80s bands. That's their influence. You look at Pantera, they were an 80s band at one point. You know, they have all their influences, but they still have their sound. And that's kind of the process I'm in right now. Is the way I would define my sound is you could hear the influences, but I try to make it its own thing. Like REDLINE, I feel like REDLINE is closer to Nickelback and Godsmack than it is 80s, but you could still hear that sound in it. That's kind of the point. You're supposed to hear the influences, but I'm trying to really make it modern because I don't think anybody could just go out there and parody the 80s anymore unless you're Steel Panther and make it.
Well, you know. But I mean, it happens all along. I mean, I look at early Aerosmith. I mean, that's Led Zeppelin, you know, the next step of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, especially like Greta Van Fleet, for example, their first album or whatever it was, straight up Led Zeppelin, to my knowledge. I'm not a big fan. And then they started finding their sound more, you know, and that's kind of the process I'm in right now, is really finding my sound. I've got a whole album worth of demos right now that, to me, they don't sound any like super 80s or anything like that. But the thing is, you always got to like find the roots. And my roots and my influences are those 80s rock bands like the Poisons, the Bon Jovis, and all that, but really try to modernize that for people my age. You know, I'm not just straight up rip off that super hair metal sound.
Yeah.
You know.
So you touched on it. You talked about driving the Mustang fast. Who would have been on your mixtape if that was a thing, or your mix CD in the Mustang when you're driving fast? What's the top 5 or 10 songs that you would pick?
Man, Skid Row. I love Skid Row. I love Warrant. Skid Row and Warrant are my favorite bands, easily. But I'm gonna be honest. Like,
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you and say, are we talking "I Remember You" or are we talking "Monkey Business"?
How about both?
Okay. Are we talking the Uncle Tom's Cabin, or are we talking Heaven?
Isn't it the same album? Or no, that's on the first. Heaven's on the first album. I mean, yeah. I love it all. In fact, my favorite Warrant album is the third one, Dog Eat Dog.
Oh, Dog Eat Dog is great.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I love it all. And to be honest, like when I was in high school, and especially like the first year or two of me starting my journey, I was exclusively like just 80s rock, to the point where I almost became like a supremacist of it. Like that's really all I wanted to sound like and listen to. And then I've widened my horizon so much, and what I feel like I'm getting good at now is picking the good parts from every single different type of thing that I like and getting rid of the parts that didn't work. For example, I feel like modern country is a great example of that, because modern country, specifically the thicker stuff like Luke Combs, I don't know what you guys listen to, that they took the good from 80s rock anthems and put it into a country sound. You listen to modern country music, they've got big choruses, big stereo guitars, big fucking drums. They got everything, but it's still a little bit of country. I think it's more rock than country, but that's what they do, is they take all the good from this one thing that they love and then put it into this. So that's kind of my thing.
That's what Nickelback. I always thought that's what Nickelback did. They got more of a country lyric with a rock beat.
Oh yeah, I mean, big time. I mean, I think all 3 of my songs that are out right now, at least, are like that too. Especially so, Young, Wild, and Free, and Favorite Songs. I don't know if you checked out Favorite Songs too. Though I consider both of those almost borderline country. But no steel guitar, no fiddle, none of that dumb bullshit that I hate. Yeah, no, none of that. But it's like Summer of '69, even. Like Summer of '69 is like, you could almost say country lyrics, but it's in a rock song. Same thing as Every Rose. This guy is asking me, does Gavin use any auto-tune software on his vocals? I do not own auto-tune. Now, I will say that everybody that releases a song does use a program called Melodyne, but what that is I re-sing all of my songs a million times over. In fact, every song that I've that I've released so far, it's been a 6 months to a year long process of releasing it, because I'll sing it, and most people could just sing a demo and then have the producer auto tune it up, pitch shift it all into just putting out a song quickly. I'm not like that. I re-sing a song, even if it takes 6 months to a year, until I get it pitch perfect. But, at the end of the day, there's still a tad bit of production that goes into that, no matter who you are. I mean, I like big production. I don't love, thin, raw sounding productions. I like it when it sounds big, fat, produced, and this and that. So I don't use like auto-tune, but there's definitely a lot, production that goes into my voice and my songs.
Mm. Well done. What a cool answer, and thanks for
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I said, there's production that goes into my voice, but me and my dad and like nobody, we don't own the program auto-tune.
Well, so Gavin, I mean, there's a degree of me on the other side. If I'm writing the books, when you read it, I always say, don't judge my grammar. I use Grammarly. I go through it. I use copy editing. I pay people to do that stuff. But the reality is a lot of it I reject because I don't want you to take the hillbilly out of what I'm writing. It's no longer me. So
yeah, exactly.
Well done.
Thank you. I got to answer that cautiously.
Hop, you got the next one, brother.
All right. I guess well, you touched a little bit on Skid Row and Warren. I mean, what are some of the bands you listen to and were your go-tos in high school and, fresh in high school?
Yeah. So like I said, I mean, just the straight ups, obviously I know no other band as well as I know Poison and Brett and all of them. Cause I mean, I have to, I know those songs inside and out, if Brett, something happened at a show where he needed to go to the hospital, I could walk on stage and I could do all of those songs just like him. I know every step he takes on stage. That's how well I know all the Poison stuff. But I mean, I love Skid Row. I love Warren, Bon Jovi, any of those bands and songs that have radio choruses. That's a term that I love to use, is radio choruses. You think of a song and it's got to be not genre specific. Anybody that doesn't even listen to, rock and roll, you get a group of friends that get in your car, you roll the windows down and you'll just drive. And even if they've never heard the song before, that chorus, that kick drum gets them stomping their foot, or nodding their head, anything, any songs like that are just sing-alongable. If that's a word, sing-alongable. I've just made that up. That's kind of what my influences are.
When I watch
without the written permission of Ricky Bobby.
Say that again.
To be used without the written permission of Ricky Bobby. Disregard. Strike that from the record. Hop, edit that out later.
Ricky Bobby. We're live.
Well, that's what I kind of got from when I watched the video for Young, Wild, and Free. It kind of had an up all night feel to it, like Slaughter.
Really? Okay.
And that was, a big anthem, screaming anthem. Back in the day when it was released, kind of like what you're talking about. But that's kind of where I got.
It's a high standard that I have to my songs, and why, unfortunately I don't release them as quick and often as most people should. And I do have big gaps in between my songs because I'm such a perfectionist that every one of my songs, a standard I hold is, no matter who you are, even if you fucking hate loud guitars, you could sing the chorus after listening to the song once. That's got to be my main goal, is you're able to sing the chorus after listening once.
I always said, you got to hit when that's the case. That's the way I've always felt.
Yeah, of course. It's funny. I've never heard anybody compare it to Slaughter. I love Slaughter though.
Well, it's just the whole anthem thing, because me and Wes went through there with Up All Night, and you heard it come blaring out of cars all the time. It was an easy song to sing.
Yeah. Yeah, even like Young, Wild, and Free is about singing, driving your car and singing along with your friends and having a good time. What's on these summer nights, we're living for a good time, driving black on black with your friends in mind. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. We're Young, Wild, and Free. We play rock and roll everywhere we go. We play it loud on the radio. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. We're Young, Wild, and Free. Yeah, there it is. It's literally about exactly what we're talking about right now. That's the whole premise of the song.
Very cool. We've got a question that popped up in the comments, Gavin, that says his vocal heroes are Freddie Mercury and Alison Moyet. Who was your influence? And you touched on this a little bit, but maybe weigh in on that.
Yeah, so that's a wide question, or wide answers. Obviously, Sebastian Bach is, I think everybody strives to sound like him. Whether you end up like him or you find your own style, I think I've had a few influences. I think vocally, I wanted to always sound like, at the beginning, I always wanted to sound like Sebastian Bach. Nowadays, I feel like I try to get closer to Bryan Adams, maybe even a little Sammy Hagar, whether you love or hate that era of Van Halen. Sammy Hagar is great. That whole kind of gritty, where they have grit without having to scream, kind of vibe. That natural grit and rasp. Like Sebastian Bach is great, but his gritty notes are when he belts it. I'd love to have a natural grit like Bryan Adams and Sammy Hagar. But it's a loaded question because it's like if we're just talking about vocal influence, then that. But if we're talking about overall influences as far as even like stage performances go, I mean, obviously Brett, Steven Tyler. I mean, you could say David Lee Roth. I mean, I don't go that far. I don't do all the splits. Well, I guess I did in Redline. I did that David Lee Roth splits at the beginning of Redline. Yeah, I mean, Brett and Steven Tyler are big influences when it comes to frontmanship and overall how to carry yourself as the leader of a band and a frontman. But vocally, like I said, right now, Bryan Adams probably.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Now, I'll get us back onto the regular list we had. How often do you play out? You mentioned opening for Sebastian not long ago, about a week ago. How often do you guys play?
This year, really not that much because we've been working on the album. Last year, we'd have like 2 shows a month. It was never like a hardcore tour. Last year we did a lot. We played up all the way up in Boston, all the way down in Key West. We played at the Whiskey A Go-Go out in California. We did a little mini run out with Warrant and Lita Ford out in Arizona. We did a decent amount of shows. But this year really not that much. We did, a festival in Ocean City, Maryland, and then we just did that show. What's that?
Was that the big show in Ocean City? One had Def Leppard and Motley Crue.
Oh, the Boardwalk Rock. No, I was there though because my dad played. No, this was the Bike Week Festival, in Ocean City. That and then we had this show. I think we've only had like 2 shows this year. I've done a couple pop-ups, me personally, I believe. And I think we have some big shows in the works that I'm really hoping go through. Really hoping go through because they're really big and cool shows.
Very cool. Well, as you know more about that, we look forward to helping you promote.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate that.
That kind of touches on are the other exciting events coming up that fans can come see you. I'm going to ask it a different way, Hop. Instead of that, I'm going to ask, being we're all in Virginia, we're over in the Shenandoah Valley and you're in Northern Virginia. Do you ever do anything at Backseat in Winchester or at Tally Ho in Leesburg?
Yeah, so Tally Ho, that's my home front. I mean, that I had my first ever headline show at Tally Ho. At Tally Ho, the past couple of years, I had opened up for Firehouse, Lita Ford, Lynch Mob, and all that. And then the merch sales and the ticket sales started to even out. And then I had my first headline show last year, August 9th. And let's just say I brought in more people than maybe one of the bands that I named and in the Northern Virginia area. I get out there all the time. I probably shouldn't speak on this, but I have gotten a headline offer from Backseat. There was a couple things that didn't work out. But yeah, we're gonna plan some Northern Virginia stuff coming. Maybe not super soon, but at the earliest, maybe March. Cool. But I don't like headlining that much because I don't like oversaturating. Because like when I do a headline show, a lot of motherfuckers show up, and I've experienced the oversaturation part, and then it thins out. You don't want 50 or 100 people at your show. I definitely look at that 300 range. And when I say a lot of motherfuckers come out, I mean that's a lot for a band starting out.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I didn't mean to sound cocky about that. Like I had thousands of people.
We've enjoyed Backseat a lot. We've gotten to know Carol there. We recently saw Jackal at a place called the Foundry in Waynesboro, Virginia.
Okay.
It's a pretty neat venue. So Very cool. Hop, you want to jump back in?
Well, you have mentioned, some of the people you played with. I mean, do you get starstruck anymore? Are you ever a fanboy when you get to meet, like, say, Sebastian Bach or anybody like that, or being your dad was so involved?
I mean, I sometimes situations might get me a little, I don't want to say starstruck, but I mean, like, I would not get starstruck if I met Sebastian Bach, but like it's weird situations. Like the other week, I briefly said hi to him before in the past, but right after our show, the biggest thing about being an opening band is you got to be professional and not, know that nobody back there is there for you. Just get out of the way, be pro, be easy. And if you see the headliner, make eye contact. If you make eye contact, say hi and kind of walk off. Don't waste their time. Is what I've learned. But I walked by his dressing room. We made eye contact. I said hi. I'm like, hey, you guys were great. You're a big influence of mine. Thank you guys. And he was like, oh, come in. And I walked in, and this was right after the show. He was laying there in his fucking underwear, fucking just sweating his ass off. Chilling, was like, oh, it was great rocking with you guys, man. I'm like, this is a unique situation. I'm not starstruck, but it's definitely something to remember. I'm not angry about it. It was funny. Maybe he was in like short shorts or something like that, but it was he was there like sweating, and it's like I don't get like starstruck like meeting a person, but I definitely I have situations of meeting people that, yeah, I guess you could say what you would get starstruck for that I remember vividly sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that directly answers the question. I don't directly get starstruck anymore.
I'm going to ask it a little bit different. Talk to me about how the most, I don't want to say nervous, but where you felt the most pressure. Which gig gave you the most pressure? Which was the one that you're like, shit, I need to make sure I give it everything I've got?
Sorry, that was my mom. It's hard to say. I don't know. Probably like smaller ones. Smaller ones, I'd say. Give me 1 sec. Mom, she's not down here. I'm in an interview. Sorry. At Cameo by my mom. Yeah.
Welcome to the party, Miss Evick.
Yep. Okay. Probably the smaller ones. Like I've done a few small ones that are. It's harder to perform in front of like 5 people than it is thousands.
Amen to that.
I've done a couple shows where there's only been like 10, 15 people there, and let me tell you, it's awkward, and it's hard. If that answers your question, that's definitely the stuff that I'm most nervous for. And it's like the opposite with some people. Some people, it's like the bigger you get, then the harder it is. It's definitely when you have to look at 5 people in their eyes, then that's the hard part. That's why I don't tend to do a lot of shows like that. A lot of people will give you advice like, get on stage as much as you can, do this, do that. It's good advice, but sometimes I don't necessarily see doing some of those smaller shows as as a benefit, because you don't get paid that much. And sometimes when you're at like a bar or a restaurant and people are just trying to hang out, sometimes you are like an obstacle or annoying if they're not there to see you. Like if they don't buy a ticket or whoever to come see you, and you're just kind of background entertainment. I've done a couple shows like that I'm more nervous for those shows.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Very well put. One of the things, we heard a story several years ago, Gavin, from some friends of ours that are in a band called Blacktop Mojo down in Texas. And they ended up playing somewhere that had like 8 folks show up. The venue didn't promote, blah, blah, blah. And their merch guy, Austin, great dude. He says, you know what? They played like it was 1,000 people. They gave it everything they got. And to me, that was character.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I mean, you have to. I mean, I did a festival a month or two ago. The Ocean City one that was just a weird festival because it got rained out, but I still had to perform, and that they announced it way later than they should have, and it just there really wasn't a whole lot of people at a big festival, big stage, massive stage, and it started pouring rain, and there were probably 25 people in front of us at that watching us at the festival because like I said, it was just pouring rain, and it was just awkward. But you know what? You just got to get up there and you got to own it because you know what? Videos are going to leak. Videos are going to get out there.
Oh yeah.
And that's something I've learned too, man, is like my dad will post like really bad videos of me, but I've learned to know at whatever level you're at, there's always going to be a chance that there's a phone on you, like somebody taking a video, and you just have to make sure that no matter what, make sure 100% of your show or 100% of everything, make sure that that your worst moment could be on film and put on YouTube or Facebook or something like that. So that's my thing is, if there's only 5-10 people, you still got to perform like there's a million people there. And I say that to the crowd too. My big, a big quote of mine is like, when there's a certain figure, like if there's 100 people or 10 people, I'll say like, hey, let's make 10 or let's make 100 people feel like 10,000, or let's make 10 people feel like 1,000. I say that all the time. It's actually a Rogue One reference. I love Star Wars, so that's a Star Wars reference that I say at every show, even if there's 1,000 people. I'm saying like let's make 1,000 people feel like 10,000 on a Friday night. Like let's make it a party.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hop, jump back in.
All right, so I guess we've been discussing a lot of stuff. Let's go to you've been talking about a new album. What is the process? How far along are you with your album?
Well, it kind of goes full circle back to what I was saying about, my standards for releasing a song. I feel like I have 8 really, really, really good demos and songs that are, great instrumentals right now, but the thing that I struggle with is I will rewrite lyrics and everything a million times over because I will not release a song unless it has a radio chorus. I don't believe in B-side. I believe make your whole album A-side. And that's my thing. I have 8 to 10 songs that are basically all the instrumentals, all the production, everything, done. But I'm having a hard time settling on choruses and stuff like that. So it's like my goal is I'm definitely looking forward to that around May area. Don't quote me on that, but like late spring, early summer, in time for summer. Because no matter what, I'm a summer rock guy. That all my songs you play while you're out, at the beach or on a boat or anything. It's not like yacht rock, but it's summer fun, like 5150 or Bryan Adams' Reckless, kind of that vibe. That's kind of the vibe of the album. But like I said, it was full circle. The songs are basically done. It's just I keep rewriting the choruses, and then I'm gonna have a couple people come in and kind of help me out. I'm going down to Nashville, and we're gonna really get these songs finished and tightened up. Yeah, somebody down there said weed.
So what I like to hear, and I'm sure Wes the same way, that you're releasing a whole album, because some bands release, tracks by track, just individual tracks. And we're from the old school, so we love the albums. Really dig deep the albums.
Yeah, the album area is hard because it's you can't sell it. You can't sell an album unless you have a fan base. And it's like I'm at that point where it's like I've got a base. It's not I don't have a big base, but if you're an artist that really not a whole lot of people necessarily care about, there's no need to put out an album. You need to have your song blow up, because no matter who you are, one song will make you blow up, not an album. But you need to give people, more of your sound. You look at any band, it wasn't their album that made them big. It was their radio hit song, so it's songs and singles are still the biggest way to make it. But I do think everybody should be releasing albums.
Yeah. I told a friend of mine that's touring right now. I think he's in Tampa today touring. I told him that I asked about their album coming out, and I said, hey, I'm excited that you've got it on Spotify and all that other stuff, but I know you don't make anything on that. So when there's an actual physical CD, and you see behind Hop and behind me, there's stacks of CDs from most of them behind me are older than you are, Gavin, but that is what it is. And same for Hop. But it's, gosh, how can we support? How do we come to the live shows? How can we buy some merch and do whatever?
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest way to support a band nowadays. I mean, Spotify, nothing. I mean, it's merch, shows, and CDs and stuff. And I don't even have a CD out yet. Like I said, I have a few singles out, and the album will hopefully be out by early summer, late spring.
Well, when it comes out, just know we'll be counting on you to sign one. And whether we ever listen to the physical CD or we listen to it on Spotify, it's just kind of one of those things that we enjoy having. It's the physical copies.
I'll gladly sign it. You guys are not that far from me. I drive by you guys all the time.
Well, and same in your direction. Hop, we've got a couple left. Let's jump on a few. We've talked a little bit about both of the videos.
Yeah.
I'll touch on the last one. You maybe you can wrap up with Mike Hardisty's feelings and thoughts about the show at Charlestown. But Gavin, I'll share that I just recently on Friday, with my wife and I were doing a training with a group of folks, and one of the folks in the group I knew was a big 80s metal fan, and so I played the REDLINE video, and at the beginning, the lights and the different stuff, she said, is this Van Halen? And I said, no. And then it got into it, and wow, this is really cool. Who is it? I said, well, we get to interview him on Sunday. So what were you going for? What was the goal in that song?
That song, REDLINE specifically, are you talking about the song or the video?
You answered however you want to.
Well, that song specifically, if I were to describe it in one word, it's adrenaline. Adrenaline is how I would describe it, because from the very beginning of when I started writing the song, even just the instrumental, with me, instrumentals come first. I'm like, I have this chart. I have like the idea, and then it splits into different things. Like right here, I need a song about adrenaline, and then it splits to lyrics and instrumental. Me and my guitar player, we sat down and we're like, we need it to be ballsy, we need it to be fast. My other songs are just fun, summer hangout, good time songs. I need one that punches you in the face, but it's also not too metal. It needs to be like right there, that good mix. So we started, coming up with cool riffs, and obviously I'm not a guitar player. I can play guitar in some of the songs I do live. I play on guitar, but I wouldn't call myself a guitar player, especially more so in the world that I live in, because I guess my hometown people and all my friends, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're such a great guitar player. Not to my standards, because I grew up with real guitarists. But I'll be like, I need the riff to sound like this. And like me and him would be so great about communicating. And then he'd come out and it's like, okay, here's the fucking riff. It was so great. And then we'd come up with like different styles for like solos. And I'd be like, it needs to be like Zakk Wylde. It needs to fucking hit you in the face. Zakk Wylde is my favorite of all time. And then it started going from there. And then it came to lyrics. I'm like, okay, come back to this first idea, adrenaline. What are things that give you adrenaline? You got your music, play it at full fucking volume, like get it loud and ballsy. What driving fast, that's adrenaline. Every lyric in that song is something that's about adrenaline. Running from the cops. Not that I've ever run from the cops, but it just started making up shit about adrenaline. Then you also got to think like, okay, is it getting a little too Kickstart My Heart? I got to get away from there. But it like I said, it springs from there, you know, just the idea of adrenaline. And then not only that, then a year later, when it came time, a third branch came out of there like, okay, what does this look like? And then that's when the music video came into play, you know, and then I'm like, you know what? I need it to be in your face. I need to find a way to do a car somehow. So the actual music video, we shot it 2 or 3 months ago. And I shot that car scene at the very beginning of the music video, probably like literally 3 weeks ago. Like the week the song was releasing, I filmed the car intro. Like I had like a day to edit it. And that's another thing with the video and everything like that. I did all of that myself. I did all the editing and everything right here on this MacBook.
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just I hate to say it, but when you have skills, just do it yourself, because nobody else sees your vision. I've paid people thousands of dollars to do stuff, and I at the end of the day, I'm just like, just give me the footage, give me all 15 hours. I want to edit it all myself, because this is what I have in my head, and this is what I paid for. I'm gonna put it out because I know how to. Now it wasn't no sloppy iMovie, you know, editing. Like it was pretty clean. Was it Hollywood level editing? No, but I know that I'm good enough to put out the vision I wanted to put out.
Yeah. I laughed as you were sharing the adrenaline, and got to be careful about Kickstart, because that was something Hop had in the notes about Kickstarter. It kind of gave him a feel.
Yeah, especially the intro in the music video specifically. It's got I had this awesome idea. I wanted the drums and the guitar to speak in harmony and make this it's almost a combination of Hot for Teacher and Kickstart My Heart, where it's like the drums are revving, but it's also a different pattern. If you listen to Hot for Teacher and the Redline intro back to back, it doesn't, they don't sound alike if you listen back to back, but you instantly think like, oh, you know, you hear the drums revving, so it sounds like that. And then Kickstart My Heart is really just, it's the open D, then A, then E. But this, you know, it rides up, and you know, as the drums speed up with the rev, you know, that you get higher and higher. And I feel like it was different enough from those two intros that it made its own cool thing.
Yeah, I know that's somewhat sensitive sometimes. I mean, I was listening to something last evening that put me in total mind of Brother Kane. And it sounds nothing, but there's a little bit of a riff in the song, and I'll never tell the guy because I don't want him to sound like I'm down on him. I love his song. We just saw him play live. I won't even say the name. Killer live show. Great people. Just love it. But I don't want it to sound like, hey, I'm dogging you. Quite frankly, Brother Kane's one of my favorite all-time bands, and it's a compliment. But I don't want it to sound weird. So I heard Hot for Teacher, and I don't sound that as a negative. It took me back to it. That's a freaking cool song. And
exactly. So, you know, make it feel nostalgic and bring people back to those times without necessarily ripping it off. I think I did a good job where it's like, it reminds you of Hot for Teacher, but it's not the same. It's not the same kick pattern. It's
100%
different, but it makes you think about that. And then when you hear that, you're like, oh shit, you know, I'm getting, you know, teleported back, and then it builds up the vibe of, okay, this sounds like a car. This is about to be like something like, the overall goal of the song is something that makes you want to like push your fucking foot through the pedal, like through the car, like just yank it down, stomp on the pedal. That's the whole goal of the song. And you hear that intro and like, okay, this is building it up. This better be good. This better pay off. And I'm hoping, and I think it did.
Yeah, I think you did a good job.
Yeah, I would say you nailed it. Very well done, young man.
Thank you.
Hop, throw in one last.
All right, what we got here? Well, go ahead, because I somehow lost. There we go. I don't know. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, is there anything you want to?
I mean, nothing necessarily coming up except for just keep streaming Redline. You know, it's doing good. You know, it's doing good on the radio right now. I don't necessarily, you know, the one thing it's lacking in is Spotify right now, but everywhere else it's doing amazing. everywhere else it's doing amazing except for Spotify. But just keep playing Redline. Just if you want to hear modern rock, you got to play it. You got to keep it going. Because it's gonna die. That I'm the last wave. I feel like my generation, my people, we are the last wave and the last chance this genre really has to stay alive.
Yeah.
Well, I've played the video on YouTube a half a dozen times in the last 48 hours.
Thank you for that. I got a couple people like still to even yesterday, last night. I was walking around Old Town Manassas, and a couple people spotted me, and they were with friends. I'm like, "Have you seen his band?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And they were like, "No, what's the deal with this band?" And then they pulled up the video like in real time, like to show their friend like in front of me. I'm like, "Holy shit, this is you! I got to go listen to this when I get back home too." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Sometimes you can never tell who's being nice and kissing your ass in person too.
Yeah. The old guy feedback, and it's from a different world than where you get it. So hopefully it resonates. It doesn't sound like a crusty old bastard that's giving you feedback you don't want. Appreciate it every time, and just know that if somebody wants to be a jackass, they will regardless.
That is true. That is absolutely true, especially when it comes to Poison fans.
Yeah, well, and there's that. There's a line in the first line on the first song of Jackal's first album where Jesse James Dupree says, "You look at me and shake your head, don't like my hair, you're so misled, I shit like you do." And it's just, we all have different professions. If somebody wants to get an ego towards you, tell them to call Wes. It's okay.
Well, and you got it. I've always looked at it. I know there's no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, you got to have broad shoulders to do social media, but there's no such thing as bad publicity.
That's true too. If there's anything, if we're gonna bring it up for a sec, the whole Ricky Rocket and my dad, Pete Evick, situation that's going on right now. I said to my dad, with all this going on, I know you stand by your ground and you feel, I guess you could say a little bit bad for what's going on right now because you didn't expect it to blow up. But at the end of the day, Dad, you're also the one that told me and taught me no publicity is bad publicity. And he was like, you know what, you're right. And it's all this stuff going on right now. I mean, it's rough. It could be very rough. Bad publicity can get to you, but I mean, that's how you blow up. You got that band like Falling in Reverse or whatever with Ronnie Radke. He's blowing up because he's just all the bad publicity. Everybody fucking hates him. He's going off on Eddie Trunk and Sebastian Bach and all that. And you know what? He just headlined Warped Tour last night.
Yeah. That's what I always say. There's a lot to that. I mean, getting on blabbermouth, for being something bad, that's sometimes it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Gavin, since you mentioned it, I'll say I saw the initial comment and I saw your dad's initial response, and I'll say class act. I didn't realize that was your dad an hour ago.
I didn't either.
As I read the thread, I'm going, what a class act and what a classy way of handling it. So a whole bunch of respect. Don't know him from anybody, but a whole lot of respect.
Well, it's a weird situation. You got the hardcore Poison fans that just they saw Ricky's comment and immediately go to hate, and then the other 50% are the people that are like, okay, so I actually watched the interview from where Pete's comment was coming from. What did he say that was bad? It's like it's the educated ones versus the ones that just get on the hate train. It's like, okay, we watched the interview. What did he say that was bad?
Yeah. Well, I told Wes it's the opposite situation of the Skid Row deal.
Yeah, complete opposite.
There's a reason that Sebastian isn't with Skid Row. I mean, they've made it plain.
Yes, there is. And I've talked to the Skid Row people about that too. I mean, I don't know if you know this. They got real close. A reunion, literally was happening 2 years ago, I believe. It was in May. I was literally at M3 Rock Festival. It was right after Eric Ronwell left the band and right before they announced Lizzie was coming in to step in. it officially was happening.
Oh, see,
Officially.
I didn't know about that one.
No,
I mean,
it's about 2 years
guy.
ago. Or maybe a year ago. I forget if it was. I don't remember, but it officially was happening, and apparently they couldn't get along.
But I tell you what, Lizzie Hale knocked it out of the freaking park.
Oh yeah, she did. But you also gotta. Truth be told, those songs are so hard, and I've even myself thought about maybe trying out for the whole Skid Row thing because they are having secret tryouts right now. And the all-time Lizzie Hale, if you watch videos of her doing it, she's fucking amazing. But I got a video on my phone, the very last song, I think it was I Remember You in the set. Oh my gosh, her voice breaks, she falls completely flat, and this is the almighty Lizzie Hale, who, I love Lizzie. I love Lizzie to death. She's one of the nicest people ever too. And she is I think the greatest female vocalist of all time, but something's got to be said where even her is having a hard time singing those songs.
Oh,
who are you going to get? Man. Yeah, who are you going to get to sing those songs? If even Lizzie Hale, who actually is amazing, not even that, but she's a woman who has that extra octave range, and those songs are still hard for her.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I know he said last, but I can't. You went there, and I've got to ask the question. Give me your thoughts on Miles Kennedy.
Are you talking about the guy from the movie Rockstar?
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
He's done a few things since.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, I know he's amazing. I don't necessarily listen to a lot of Alter Bridge. I do like Creed. Because I know what was that reaction for?
I just about had a stroke. I can handle Creed. I absolutely love Alter Bridge, and Miles is the reason. I can handle Guns N' Roses. I love Slash with Miles Kennedy.
So I'll say this. Every point when somebody listens to a band, at some point is when it's their first time listening or first time finding out something. And I had an experience where my friend's mom, like a month ago, were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that Ozzy Osbourne was a singer of Black Sabbath." And sometimes it's crazy, but you really got to think, at one point we may have not known that too. I found that out at some point, probably years and years ago. I haven't gotten into Alter Bridge yet. Mm-hmm. So at some point will be the time that I actually set aside the time to really kind of listen. I don't even know if I've listened to any Alter Bridge, because that being said, nothing's ever hooked me if I have accidentally heard it, but at some point I will listen to more Alter Bridge, but I haven't had that opportunity in my life where I've really had the time to sit down and listen to it. If that's a great analogy, I don't know if that made sense to you. Everybody's got their first times when they get into it.
With the reason I asked that question, Gavin, is with what you said about the vocal range and stuff. I mean, I hear Scott Stapp, and I liked Creed at the time. They were catchy and so on, but the vocal range that I hear Miles have, and I loved Guns N' Roses. I mean, gosh, Appetite was one of my first top to bottom albums, like you're talking about, that everything's just killer. But Miles just is holy moly.
No doubt about it. He's amazing. Good guitar player too. I mean, Miles is one of the best. He's looked at as one of the best. I absolutely do not argue with that. It's like you gotta sometimes separate your favorites from your bests.
100%.
All the time. I think Eddie Van Halen is the greatest guitar player of all time. For example, here, one sec. Oh, come on, give it to me. I have this. The day that Eddie died, I went out and I bought a Frankenstein guitar for $2,000. It's a real one, real AVH. I think Eddie Van Halen is the greatest guitar player of all time. Is he my favorite, or even maybe in my top 3 favorites? Not necessarily. Zakk Wylde is. Zakk Wylde is my favorite of all time.
He's probably
you got to separate. You got to separate that list. Look at that. Who's that signed by? It's a little blurry. Is that Zach? Nice. Let me see. Do I have I cannot show it on stream, but to my left I have a Zakk Wylde guitar, and if you know why I can't show it on stream, it's the one from it clicked in your guys' head
with all the bottle caps.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't have the bottle caps on it, but it is that one, and people will get the wrong idea if you show that on stream.
Well, Dimebag's got one, that does about the same thing. So.
Yep.
The reason I kept that guitar was because Zach signed it. He signed it at the first interview that Hop and I got to be a part of. It was at a sound check for the second tour of Black Label in 2000.
Yeah, I love Black Label. I've gotten to meet Zach before. Super nice guy. Black Label. That's one of those bands I've only recently gotten into because I don't usually dive that heavy, but they're also not that heavy. They're like borderline. You know what I'm saying? And I love Zach. I think I got where is it? I got a couple Zach picks right here. I think
we saw him play the first tour on Sonic Brew. We saw him play at Jack's that we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah,
and
at Jack's.
His rhythm guitar player tells us before the show, yeah, we're going to play one that Zach did with the Godfather, and it made it to the chorus before I could tell it was No More Tears.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot. They remade that song and it sounds nothing like it.
Oh, when it got to the solo and the dueling guitars, and then Zach broke into his thing, it was, oh my gosh, it was incredible.
It's ballsy, man. I love Zach. Zach is my favorite of all time. I can't say that enough. He's amazing.
Yep, same. So we can disagree on Creed and Alter Bridge. That's okay, but we're locked in. That's
I don't dislike Alter Bridge. I haven't gotten into them.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Anyway, we've got several of your links. We've got your website. We've got your Facebook, your YouTube channels and stuff in the show notes wherever this feed's going. Gavin, I don't want to keep you forever. This has been a fantastic conversation. We're thrilled to be able to know you and look forward to being able to support you however we can moving forward. Gosh, just
thank
keep
you.
doing
The second I'm done here, I'm meeting my dad at the recording studio, and we're recording.
Cool. Very cool.
It's always got to keep yourself going.
100%. So hang tight with me just a second. We'll kill the stream. We'll cover some details in the closing. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Of course.
And thanks
Thank you,
everyone for joining Hop's Metal Show Live.
There we go.
Hop Metal.